Hello and welcome. Welcome to the world of Dream Fruit. My name's Elizabeth Russell. I'm the creator of the world of Dream Fruit, which is an enchanted landscape, a storied realm of magic and belonging. And in the world of Dream Fruit, we are always playing with what is possible and how we can be in cooperation with our ancestors, with future beings, with the more than human world in order to bring about a regenerative future. And we in the world of Dream Fruit work with some very lovely, what I call joyful means. And these joyful means include very simple activities like realigning our consciousness with lunar cycles or tapping into the gifts of the deep imagination or remembering that there is a host of seen and unseen allies actually wanting us to succeed, really wanting humans to return back into the deep belonging that is our birthright state with the world, with Earth and cosmos. And we can contextualize some of what we are playing with inside the world and story of Dream Fruit by bearing in mind the frame story. And in the world of Dream Fruit, and the story that we are moving through begins like this. The living earth has been imperiled, and our creative nature is rising up. We are all earthlings in training on a mission to return to radical belonging, to remember who we are. So today we are going to step into the lunar tale for the third lunation of 2025. And this lunar cycle begins February 27th and goes through March 28th. And it is a new moon in Pisces on February 27th, and that is in the 10th degree of Pisces. And we are also looking at a full moon on March 13th, which is in Virgo and also brings us an eclipse. And that is in the 24th degree of Virgo. So this is the cycle of time we are playing in. And if you've been following along in our story, I will recap a little bit and then we'll kind of dive in a little more deeply to the story of now. When we last caught up with our heroes, we were traversing great expanses. First of all, at the very beginning of the year, we were on a ship. We were on the water, and we were in a ritual and process of reconciliation. We were making unlikely alliances. We were restoring connections where trusts had been broken. We were making amends, and the water was bearing witness to that. And we specifically formed a bond with the birds of our world. And those birds led us to a new shore. And when we arrived at this new shore, we could hear the birds singing, calling us toward them, calling us onto the land, onto this new land. And there was a split. Some of us stepped onto the new land and followed the voice of our kin. And some of us stayed on the ship and turned again to the sea. And now it could be that there is still more reconciliation to be done because in this moment, in this story, the story of 2025, the ocean has really brought to us this opportunity and invitation to reconcile, to make amends. And so it could be that there is more of that kind of process that is being asked of a portion of us, and that the rest of us are being called in further to this new landscape. So this is a little bit of where we've been. And now what I would like to do is slowly, slowly shift our attention, shift your focus ever so slightly. We'll be kind of slipping in between from the rational day-to-day concerns into moon mind, into lunar consciousness, into the story of now, activating a different kind of listening as we tune in to the dream of the perspective moon. And in this dream of the perspective moon, we walk further along the shore, sand and sun in equal parts upon us. We lean toward the winged ones and we find ourselves rising above the earth, a gift from our skyborn allies to help us on our way. At this great height, a quiet blooms. Our eyes grow soft as clouds. We see ourselves as children met by a young familiar. The way opens before us, yet preparation is needed. And does our flight carry us further to the visioning caves in the great valley? Yes, the ground beneath you is turning. Get free to see far. The ground beneath you is turning. Get free to see far. Now, the opportunity with story and with imagery is to notice what you notice. So as you reflect on the imagery of this dream, what stands out for you? Is there a word, an image, a phrase, a feeling? This is the dream of the perspective moon. And what is happening here is we are walking along this new shore and there's sun and sand, and we are leaning toward the winged ones, leaning toward the winged ones. And we find ourselves rising above the earth. And we realize that this is a gift from our skyborn allies. And this is a gift to help us on our way. And so then we're at this great height. We are soaring above the earth, and at this great height, a quiet blooms. Our eyes grow soft like clouds, and we see ourselves as children met by a young familiar. And the way opens before us. We can see the landscape beneath us. We can have this wide open sky. And we realize now in the story, we see that even as the way opens before us, preparation is needed. We're not quite ready. And so, yes, our flight carries us further. And toward what? Toward the visioning caves in the Great Valley. The ground beneath you is turning. Get free to see far. I will offer that the story where we left off before this lunar cycle was a story of setting ourselves free, emancipating ourselves from social expectations and norms that were no longer in integrity with us. The Emancipation Moon really taught us about peer groups, about popularity, about splitting off when it really makes sense that when we want to be in deeper integrity with ourselves, and making choices based on our inner moral compass versus the convenient and temporary popularity that certain choices might bring us. And also how certain idols, people, concepts, leaders disappoint invariably. It was a time when we were learning about clay-footed idols last month. I expect that we'll continue learning this lesson. This is the nature of lunar consciousness, is it's like water. It flows into itself. And so a lot of these lunar themes will overlap. They will kind of will create some briny water here and there. We'll have some intermingling of imagery and of story and theme. Throughout the year, this is what I've observed, is that often the theme or imagery that we're getting at the beginning of a cycle, a solar cycle, will ripple and kind of resonate and inform the other lunations. So this idea of forming unlikely bonds, this idea of kind of splitting off from a peer group or reevaluating what we admire or reevaluating what we admire within ourselves, these themes will definitely be in play. But here we are going deeper and being aided. There is a boon. We are given flight. And in this flight, we are given perspective. This is the perspective moon. And so while the story up until now has been a lot of negotiating, like working out our offerings to the birds while we're on the ship and like figuring out our um, rites of reconciliation, making this gesture of remorse and amends, and also like sorting out who's coming and who's going, and like the dissonance of this social divide that happened in during the what we call in dream fruit the emancipation moon. Now we are in perspective. There's an opening. And because we're listening and leaning toward the other species, our beautiful bird kin, our friends with wings who are wanting to help and guide us, because we lean toward them, we receive a boon. And this is the boon of perspective. And if we are up to anything inside the world of dream fruit, it is remember who you are. You are an earthling. You are woven into the fabric of life. Earth and cosmos are singing toward you all the time, calling you back into the matrix of belongingness, that deep, radical belonging that is your birthright state. It takes a shift in perspective to get there. And we do it every day in little ways, little ways, and little ways. It's not a permanent arrival. It's us attempting to be true humans. So the gift inside of this lunar cycle is this gift of space, perspective, great, great expanse that we're able to see. What a relief after being inside of these recent lunar cycles where we've been kind of negotiating and working out old past wrongs and working out these divisions and figuring out where we stand with things. And now, and what does it say? It says, oh, at this great height, a quiet blooms. Our eyes grow soft like clouds. We see ourselves as children met by a young familiar. What a boon, what a gift, what a time to remember innocence, to remember spaciousness, to get a bigger view. Get free to see far, even as the ground beneath you is turning. This is a time for big picture, the big picture. See from that beautiful 30,000-foot view. I will mention the Sabian symbol for this new moon is an aviator in the clouds. And the Sabian symbol for the full moon is Mary and her little white lamb. So we really are working with, first of all, let's think about an aviator. This is the technology of flight. Of course, current events, we are all thinking about the technology of flight, what it takes to be an aviator, what is going on in the sky, and, how we keep our skies safe, but also just to be respectful of the technology that makes these kinds of big picture perspective possible. So we want to be able to, in this time, during this month, we want to be able to kind of hand the controls over to your dreaming self for just long enough that we can see things differently, just long enough for the eyes to soften like clouds. And then we ask. There's a prompt here that is worth asking. And so this is the sort of journal prompt for this lunar cycle. Is there an illusion that is no longer helping? This is a month when we want to clear our heads from habits, from distractions. We really want to get a bigger perspective, which is not about seeing further, it's about seeing differently, reassessing what is your vision for our future, for your future, your place in creating that. What does a regenerative world look like? This is a wonderful time to revisit that question too. Like, what is it? What is the story that you seek to live into? And also, we just want to get that this has been a time of disillusionment, of difficulty, of loss, of complication, of confusion, of a lot of little things, big things that are piling up and dominating our attention, our sacred, sacred attention. And so, yes, get free to see far. We need to be able to get up and out of the kind of hailstorm of information and get some bigger picture. Maybe take a digital detox, maybe take a little bit of time off from news, from information. Okay, so that is what we know. Of course, the moon ahead and the story ahead becomes really rich, and that moon begins on March 29th. And so you can tune in then for the next thrilling episode of Lunar Tales for Earthlings. And if you'd like to have a copy of this year's Lunar Tales, which includes more than just the stories, you also get seasonal overview, season by season, of some of the key themes. And you have plenty of space for your own note taking in the book. It's really like a mini moon journal and really a little pocket-sized adventure that can provide companionship as we traverse this kind of wild terrain of the year ahead. So thank you for walking through the world of Dream Fruit with me and aspiring toward that birthright state of radical belonging. Thank you for caring about this beautiful green earth that we are part of. And thank you for allowing your creative nature to rise up in response to the challenges of our time. May it go well for you, and may it go well for us all.